Marcus Webb sat in a coffee shop in Shoreditch on a Tuesday morning and ordered the same flat white he always ordered. 9 years of Tuesdays, this time the barista could not stop shaking. Outside the window, a man in a tan trench coat aimed a telephoto lens at the door. Richard Phelps, the Daily Herald, he had been camped there since 6 in the morning waiting for one photograph. 48 hours earlier, Marcus was nobody. He had a 3-bedroom terrace in Brixton and a 10-year-old Vauxhall Corsa and a cat called Biscuit who only liked him when it rained. Then the wire transfer cleared. His quantum computing company sold. The final number after taxes and legal and every fee imaginable came to 987 billion pounds sterling. That is not a billion. That is almost a trillion, more than any private individual has ever held in British history. More than the GDP of most nations on the planet Earth right now. If you spent 1 million pounds every single day starting right now, you would not run out for another 2,700 years. You would still be spending when the year 4000 arrives. So Marcus Webb woke up on a Wednesday with more money than some continents, and the first thing he did was try to buy coffee. That is when the shaking barista happened. Everyone in the shop stopped talking. A woman near the window held her phone under the table pretending to text. She was recording a man by the sugar station just stood there staring directly at him. Marcus took his coffee and left. He did not sit down. He did not add sugar. He walked to his car parked on a side street and sat in the driver's seat and exhaled for a long time. That was the last time Marcus Webb went anywhere alone, because when you hold 1 trillion pounds, every stranger becomes a variable. Every eye on you is a potential transaction waiting to happen. The first call he made was to a private security firm in Mayfair. James Holloway picked up former SAS 12 years of close protection across 3 continents. Holloway listened to the brief and said one sentence: "You're going to need more than a bodyguard." Within 72 hours, Marcus had a full detail. 12 operators minimum, armed and trained and rotating across 24-hour shifts every single day of the week. The kind of protection that heads of state get, the kind that makes you safe and makes you a prisoner at exactly the same time. 2 armored Range Rovers advanced teams, counter surveillance on every route. His old Vauxhall was not going to work anymore, so Marcus bought a car. Then he bought the company that made the car 2 billion pounds. His accountant logged it as a rounding error on the quarterly sheet, but he still needed somewhere to live. The Brixton Terrace was surrounded by photographers now, vans parked on his street around the clock, neighbors selling quotes to tabloids for 200 pounds a pop, so he bought a compound 14 acres behind limestone walls and iron gates in the Surrey countryside. A guardhouse at the entrance manned by 2 people at all times, day and night, every single day. The property had its own private road. You could not even see the main house from the gate. 200 million pounds, the estate agent called it, once in a lifetime. Marcus signed without reading the second page, but a place that size does not run itself. You need staff, housekeepers, and groundskeepers, 2 private chefs on rotation. A property manager who reports to a house manager who reports to nobody but Marcus. Drivers, maintenance crew, IT staff, just for the surveillance systems. A personal assistant named Claire, who has her own personal assistant named Priya. Within 1 month, 63 people worked at his house. Everything ran like a machine now, smooth, quiet, precise. The grass was always cut, the meals were always ready, the gate always open on time. Marcus was comfortable, Marcus was secure, Marcus was sealed in. So he started spending, because when you have almost 1 trillion pounds and everything around you is handled, you get a little bored. Boredom plus unlimited resources is a very specific kind of dangerous combination. He bought a Boeing 747 and had it gutted and rebuilt into a flying residence. Master suite, office, conference room, full kitchen, shower with marble tiles imported from a quarry in Carrara. 400 million pounds. He bought an island in the South Pacific. 12 square miles of white sand and turquoise water, and exactly 0 mobile phone signal. He commissioned the largest private yacht ever built in a British shipyard. Helicopter pad, submarine bay, cinema room, full medical facility staffed by 2 doctors and a paramedic on rotation. 600 million pounds. The yacht had a name painted across the stern. He called it Biscuit. And here's the part that nobody warns you about. This is the part that changes the equation. 1 trillion pounds makes money faster than a human being can physically spend it in a normal lifetime. Even sitting in the most boring investments on earth, government bonds, index trackers, cash deposits across 12 banks. Marcus's net worth grew by 47 million pounds every single day without him touching a thing. He woke up richer than when he fell asleep every morning without lifting a finger. The money had its own momentum now, its own gravitational pull. It grew whether he wanted it to or not, so money was handled. Security was handled, the cars, the properties, the staff, the yacht, the jet, the island, all handled. Marcus Webb had solved every problem money could solve. Then he wanted coffee again. His security team needed 45 minutes of advance notice. Holloway ran a sweep of the area. Two operators entered the coffee shop first and ordered drinks and sat at separate tables pretending to read newspapers. When Marcus finally walked in, every person stopped talking. The same silence as last time. Heavier, now a teenager in the corner, started a live stream. The barista this time was a different person, and she was also shaking. He got his coffee. It tasted exactly the same, but everything around it was different. The room was different. The air was different. People were performing their idea of normal and failing badly at it. So he stopped going. He did not want to be a spectacle. He did not want the barista to shake. He just wanted a flat white in a room where nobody adjusted their behavior because he walked in. That room does not exist anymore. Not for Marcus Webb, not for anyone holding £1 trillion. Every room you enter rearranges itself the moment you cross the threshold, and there's no way to stop it, but there's good he can do with this money. Real good, measurable good. So Marcus wrote a check, £500 million to disaster relief, hospitals, schools, clean water, the biggest private donation in history. The media covered it for about half a news cycle because relative to what he had, 500 million was still just a fraction. People were grateful for about a day. Then they asked when the next check was coming. They always want more, not because they are greedy, because when you hold £1 trillion, the distance between what you have and what you give will always look like a canyon no matter how much you feel it. But it is not the strangers that get to you, it is the people you already know. Marcus's phone rang constantly now, but none of the calls were from friends anymore, not real ones. They were from lawyers, wealth managers, heads of state, charity directors, foundation boards. Everyone wanted a meeting. Everyone wanted his name attached to their thing. His signature on their paper, his face at their gala. The friends from before started to disappear. Some just stopped calling. No explanation, no argument. They just faded like someone turning a dimmer switch so slowly you do not notice until the room is completely dark. The ones who still called sounded different, careful, measured, like they were weighing every single word before it left their mouth, testing each sentence for anything that might sound like they were asking for something. Marcus invited his university flatmate Tom down to the compound for a weekend. Tom said yes before Marcus finished asking. When he arrived, he complimented everything. The house, the grounds, the wine, the guest room sheets. He agreed with everything Marcus said for 2 straight days. He laughed at jokes that were not funny. He never once pushed back on a single opinion. Not once, not about anything, not even about football. Tom used to argue with Marcus about everything. Films, politics, where to eat on a Friday night, which pub had the better chips. That was the entire foundation of the friendship. Friction that was really affection. Now Tom sat in a £200 million house drinking wine that cost more than his monthly rent, and he could not disagree about anything because the gap between their lives had become so wide that honesty felt like a risk. That friendship was already dying. But it was about to become the least of Marcus's problems because then the lawsuit started, not 1, not 2. 17 in the first 6 months. Each one a new headline. An old business partner claimed Marcus had shorted him on a deal from 8 years ago. A woman in Manchester said he verbally promised her £5 million at a charity dinner in 2019. Marcus had never been to Manchester. Most of the claims were absurd. His legal team said the word frivolous so often it stopped sounding like a real word. But every single case cost 6 figures to defend. Everyone put his name in the papers. Each one required a deposition or a filing or a statement or some kind of settlement negotiation in a room full of lawyers who billed by the quarter hour and had no incentive to finish quickly. His lawyers told him to get used to it. When you hold £1 trillion, people will try to take it from you using every legal tool available. The court system is a tool. Marcus was the deepest pocket on earth. He settled 3 of the cases, not because they had any merit, because fighting them in public costs more than writing the check. $1 million here, $2 million there. Rounding errors on a spreadsheet nobody else would ever see. But every settlement got reported, and every report invited 5 more claims. His legal budget for the year crossed £40 million. He had an entire floor of a London law firm working only on his matters. He had never met most of the lawyers. They sent him summaries every Friday, pages and pages of people who wanted his money and were willing to stand in a courtroom and lie under oath to get it. But daily life went on. Or something that looked like daily life if you squinted hard enough and did not ask too many questions about what the word normal used to mean before all of this started. Then Marcus met Sophie. She was sharp, funny in a way that caught him off guard. She did not mention the money once across an entire dinner at a restaurant in Marylebone that he had booked under a false name. He saw her again and again. 3 weeks in it started to feel like something real. Something that existed outside the compound walls and the legal memos and the shift changes and the armored vehicles and the schedules. Then he noticed things, small things. She mentioned his island in a conversation he never had with her. She knew his pilot's first name. She knew which car he preferred for trips into the city center. Details that meant she had looked him up before they ever met. Of course she did. Everyone does. Every person Marcus meets from now until the end of his life will Google him before they say hello. But now there was a question sitting behind every moment with her, every smile, every laugh, every time she touched his arm. Does she like him or does she like this? The compound, the jet, the access a life she would never touch otherwise. And once that question gets inside your head, it stays. It sits behind your eyes and watches everything. You start to read every gesture differently, every silence differently. So Marcus stopped calling, she texted twice, and then she stopped. And that should have been the end of it. 2 people drifting apart the way people do. But nothing ends quietly when you hold £1 trillion. 2 weeks later, Richard Phelps ran a piece in the Daily Herald inside the Trillionaire's secret romance. Photographs of Marcus at the restaurant. Photographs of Sophie leaving the compound. A quote from a source close to the couple. Marcus did not sell the story. Sophie did not sell the story. Someone at the restaurant did, a waiter or a valet. Someone who saw them together and picked up the phone and called Richard Phelps directly. Now Sophie's name was everywhere. Her face, her job, her flat in Clapham. Strangers were sending her messages online. Some were threatening. She had a private life before Marcus, a normal, anonymous, invisible life. And Marcus erased it just by sitting across from her at dinner. His mere presence in her life was an act of exposure. His PR team drafted a statement. His lawyers sent cease and desist letters to every outlet. None of it put her name back in the box. You cannot unpublish a photograph. You cannot unsend a headline. You cannot return someone's anonymity once you have accidentally stripped it away just by being near them. Marcus sent her a message, an apology. She read it. She did not respond. He stared at the screen for a long time. 2 gray ticks, no blue. The silence was louder than any lawsuit, but the leaks kept coming, and the next one was worse. Someone from Marcus's past sold a story to a magazine, a joke he made at a house party in 2012 that, stripped of context, made him look cruel. It was everywhere within 48 hours. People who had never met Marcus now had an opinion about who he was as a person based on something he said in the living room 13 years ago. His crisis PR team went into action. They told him the same thing they always told him. Do not respond. Responding makes it worse every single time without exception. Just wait. Let the cycle move past you. So Marcus sat in his office behind his screens and watched someone sell his old life for what his team estimated was about £250,000. That is what a decade of friendship was worth. He could not call them. He could not confront them. He could not even confirm he knew who did it, because that confirmation itself would become a story. So he sat there, still, quiet, watching his name trend. This is the part most people never think about. The money does not protect you from your past. It amplifies it. Every mistake you made when you were broke is now worth a front page to someone who remembers it. Grace called on a Sunday morning. She sounded the same as she always did. Asked if he was eating enough. Told him about a fox that kept getting into her garden in Lewisham. Same conversation, same voice. For 10 minutes, Marcus's shoulders dropped and his jaw unclenched, and he almost forgot what his life had become. His mom talking about a fox. the simplest, warmest thing in the world. He missed it before it was over. Then she mentioned Daniel, his brother. She did not say he asked her to call. He never would. But Daniel was behind on the mortgage and his van needed repairs, and he had not taken a holiday in 3 years. And Marcus had more money than some countries, and Daniel was family. Marcus had no idea his brother was struggling. Nobody told him, nobody tells you anything anymore when you hold £1 trillion because every conversation has a price tag. Marcus sent £3 million that afternoon. He did not think about it. He opened his banking app and typed the number and hit send, and it was done in less time than it takes to order a takeaway. Daniel did not call to say thank you. Not that day, not that week, not ever. 3 months later at a holiday dinner, Marcus flew the entire family to on his 747. Daniel sat at the far end of the table. He talked to their cousins. He talked to their aunt. He talked to anyone and everyone except Marcus. When Marcus tried to catch his eye, Daniel looked at his plate. He left before dessert and did not say goodbye. A week after the dinner, Grace called again. Different tone this time, quiet and careful. She said Daniel told their cousin that Marcus had ruined the family, that everything changed when the money came and nothing changed for the better. Grace was not taking sides. She was telling Marcus because she did not know what to do. She had a security detail she never asked for and a son who would not speak to his brother and a family that needed a 747 to sit in one room. Marcus told her he would talk to Daniel. He did not. What would he say? He could not unsend the money. He could not undo the jet. He could not walk into Daniel's house without 2 armed men in the drive. The distance between their lives was not something a conversation could cross. It was structural. It was financial. It was a canyon built out of zeros, and it grew wider every time Marcus's portfolio ticked upward while Daniel's boiler broke, so Marcus stopped trying. He told himself he was giving Daniel space. He knew he was giving himself permission to not feel the guilt. Both things were true. Neither made the silence any easier to carry around, but the compound kept running. The 63 staff kept the machine humming, every surface clean, every meal prepared, every gate manned, every camera recording. Marcus started to find something almost like comfort in the routine of the staff. Then Holloway called a meeting. Somebody on the household staff had been feeding information to Richard Phelps at the Herald. Nothing dangerous, just small details, schedules, visitors, photographs taken from inside the East Wing corridor. The security team found the leak through metadata on a photograph that ran in a gossip column. The angle matched a specific window in the East Wing. Only 3 staff members had access to that hallway. They narrowed it down in 2 days. It was Linda Barker, the housekeeper. She had been working there for 5 months. She was good at her job. She was also earning £4,000 a month from a tabloid. Linda was escorted off the property on a Wednesday morning. The security team handled it. Marcus watched from the 2nd floor window. She was carrying a cardboard box. She did not look up. She walked slowly across the gravel. A man in a dark suit walked her to the gate. Another man opened it. She got into a car that had been called for her, and the gate closed behind her. Marcus stood at the window for a while after she was gone. The East Wing hallway was empty. His team hired her replacement by Friday. A new face, new clearance badge, same uniform, same schedule. The machine did not care who operated it as long as somebody did without leaking. But there was always something next. There was always another meeting, another headline, another legal memo. Another person outside the gates with a camera or a sign or just standing there staring up at the house. Tuesday afternoon, Marcus took the yacht out. The channel opened up around him. The water was so great it looked like mercury. Sunset turned the clouds copper and gold. Dinner was Dover soul prepared by a chef who trained at 3 Michelin-starred restaurants for a decade. The table was set for one. White linen, silver cutlery, a single glass of white wine. The chef stood in the galley and waited. The steward stood near the door and waited. Everyone was waiting for Marcus to finish eating alone. He got back to the compound and went to bed early. The master suite was larger than his entire Brixton terrace. Every surface was clean and cold and expensive. He lay there staring at the ceiling. The ceiling was very white. Around 3 in the morning, he was awake. Not from a dream, not from a noise. Just awake the way you are when your body has forgotten the difference between night and day, because every hour feels exactly the same. He got up. The compound was dead silent. He walked to the cinema room. 60 seats, every one of them empty. The screen was dark. He stood in the doorway for a moment and then kept walking. The library was empty. First editions behind glass. Books he had not read. Books he bought because someone told him they were valuable. He pulled one from the shelf, held it, put it back, kept walking. He walked the main corridor. The only sound was a faint mechanical hum. The security camera at the far end adjusted and tracked his movement. He stopped and it stopped. He took a step and it followed. He was never alone and he was always alone. He went outside. The grass was wet, cold under his bare feet. He walked to the center of the lawn. The sky was the same sky he used to look at from the roof of his Brixton terrace when he was broke. Same stars, same depth, same silence. He used to lie up there on summer nights when the rent was late and stare at the Milky Way for hours and not care about a single thing. The stars had not moved, everything underneath them had. He stood on the lawn until the cold got into his bones and then he went inside. He went back to bed. He did not sleep. He stared at the ceiling again. The ceiling was still very white. It did not have any answers. After a week in Portofino, he flew home. His assistant Claire met him on the tarmac at Farnborough. She asked how the trip was. Great, he told her. She nodded and tapped something into her tablet and walked him to the car, back to the compound, through the gate, past the guardhouse, past the swimming pool he had used 4 times, past the tennis court he had never touched, past the wine cellar with bottles that cost more than rent in most postcodes, into his office where 7 screens displayed his portfolio, his companies, his calendar, and a news ticker that mentioned his name twice in the first 30 seconds. He sat down. Outside the window, the groundskeeper rode the mower across the lawn in perfect parallel lines. Security did a shift change. New faces replaced old ones, fresh clearance badges, fresh earpieces. Fresh eyes scanning the perimeter. The machine kept running. The gates kept opening and closing. The cameras kept tracking every bird and every shadow and every gust of wind. 63 people work at this house. Every one of them has a purpose. Every one of them has a function. Every one of them will go home tonight to their families and their lives and their messy, beautiful, normal evenings. Marcus is the only one who lives here. He is the only one who stays when the shifts end and the gates close and the lights go off one by one across the grounds. He stays in the silence. And this is what nobody tells you about £1 trillion. It does not buy happiness. Everyone says that part is obvious, but it does not just fail to buy happiness. It actively dismantles the ordinary infrastructure that happiness depends on. Coffee with a stranger, an argument with an old friend, a family dinner where nobody needed a catering team, a relationship where the other person could not have looked you up before saying hello, a walk without a security detail. These are not luxuries. These are the ordinary moments that human beings are built to need, and £1 trillion removes them one by one so quietly you do not notice until they are all gone. Marcus Webb has everything a person could ever want. Private jet, private island, private yacht named after his cat, 63 staff, 12 armed guards, 7 screens, and a ceiling that is very, very white when you stare at it at 3 in the morning. He does not have a single room on earth where people act normally when he walks in. He does not have a brother who will look him in the eye. He does not have a barista who can pour his coffee without trembling. And this is not a story about gratitude. This is not a story that says be happy with what you have. That would be too simple. This is a story about what happens when the distance between you and everyone else becomes so vast that no bridge can reach. There's a number where money stops solving problems and starts creating them. Marcus Webb found that number. He found it in a coffee shop in Shoreditch on a Tuesday morning when the barista's hand started to shake. And if you think that number is $1 trillion, you are wrong. The number is much smaller than that. The number is the exact amount of money it takes for the people around you to stop being themselves when you're in the room. Most people will never have to find that number, and that might be the most valuable thing about their lives. The freedom to walk into a room and be treated like a person and not a balance sheet. If you found something in this video that shifted the way you think about wealth and what it actually costs to hold it, then subscribe to this channel, because this is what we do here. We tell the stories behind the numbers that nobody else is willing to explain.